Hey everybody, it's your highness Pubert here with another Pubert Played, where I review modern games that I'm interested in and will get me more views. I'm keeping the series going because you guys clearly like my Dead Space one. I appreciate you guys watching it, and I'm totally not upset at the fact that it's my most popular video right now, even though I didn't put as much work into it as the other ones. Anyway, today's game is the recently released Atomic Heart. When I first saw this game, it piqued my interest a lot. Aesthetically, it looked great, and the trailers were all super enigmatic and crazy looking, with the cool boss fights, and those sexy twin robot ladies definitely turned me on to playing the game. Even though it caught my interest, I've been cautiously optimistic about it up until its release. As I've mentioned in other videos, modern AAA games almost always have a way of disappointing me because I don't necessarily like a lot of modern trappings in video games. So, does Atomic Heart have enough heart to be one of the greats? Who the fuck wrote this? Or will it be an atomic disappointment? Who's the corny bitch that wrote this? As always, there will be a spoiler section at the end in case you're interested in playing this at all. Atomic Heart is a sci-fi first-person shooter game akin to the BioShock series, set in an alternate version of communist Russia in the 1950s, where one man, Dmitry Sechenov, was responsible for discovering polymer, a plastic substance that could store electricity that was also kind of liquid. Because of this, there were many advances in technology and robotics, practically making Russia the leading superpower in the world. In the events of the game, Sechenov is about to unveil his new Collective 2.0 when disaster strikes, and the robots are sabotaged, making them run rampant, killing everyone and anyone on sight. And it's up to our heroes Sergei Alexeyevich Nechayev and Charles, his talking sci-fi glove, yes, you heard that right, to find this terrorist and fix everything all in time for the unveiling of the new version of the Collective, which will supposedly improve everyone's lives. As Sergei and Charles attempt to complete their mission, they uncover many dark conspiracies and mysteries about the country and man they thought could do no wrong. The game came out on modern consoles as well as Xbox One and PS4, along with the PC, which is what I'm playing it on. Just like with the Dead Space review, sorry if the footage for this is a little jank. My computer isn't the strongest in the world. The game was developed by a relatively new gaming studio, Munfish, founded in 2017, with this being their first title ever. So, how did Munfish do with their first title? Well, that's what I'm fucking here for, isn't it? Graphics-wise, the presentation of this game is pretty, but it's honestly kind of generic looking. I really enjoy the retrofuturism aesthetic it has, but it reminds me too much of old Xbox 360 games where everything just looks muted and brown. If you told me this game was coming out on Xbox 360 and PS3 as well, I'd believe you honestly. The graphics don't look bad at all by any means, but by Dead Space 2023 standards, I'm not really impressed by them. To be fair, I'm not very impressed by a lot of the graphics in modern AAA games. Dead Space 2023 has been the only modern game that's actually blown me away with its graphics. Oh, and Ghost of Tsushima. That game is ridiculously pretty for no reason, but I'm getting off track. Like I mentioned earlier, what really caught my eye was the retrofuturism design of everything. If you don't know, retrofuturism is the art of depicting what the future would look like from earlier eras in time. Some examples of this in video games would be stuff like Fallout, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, and BioShock, which I feel this game takes a lot of inspiration from. I really enjoy that kind of design because it's fun to imagine what today might have looked like from the perspective of the past, and in this game, the future is plastic. It's so plastic you fucking swim in it. I do enjoy a lot of the designs of everything. The floating CRT looking monitors and the balloons are great, and some of the people have like this device with tentacles coming out of it called a thought neuroconnector, which I think is supposed to give people access to like a bunch of information, and that looks pretty rad too. Additionally, the fact that robots look like creepy mannequins are also super rad. I really enjoy the way the face opens up to show the metal underneath when they fire to shoot a laser, and the designs of the giant robot bosses were also nice to look at. But I honestly was hoping for crazier robot designs. Don't get me wrong, they are cool, but they're not as cool as I'd like them to be. I was expecting them to get more creative and scary, but they're all pretty tame in my opinion. They also have these mutant zombie looking enemies, and they're all super fucked up looking with the top of their head opening up like a giant mouth with teeth. But the designs of the mutant enemies aren't all that varied compared to the amount of different robot types there are. There is the really cool one that looks like a shit ton of veins, the Pliush or whatever it's called, but it's annoying as fuck because it's only weak to melee attacks. One other thing that stood out to me was the little Russian boy animations that are present for the choosing difficulty and game over screens. These little Russian boy animations are super cute, creative, and violent, and there's one for dying to every enemy in the game it seems like. It's weird to say, but I looked forward to seeing the new ones every time I died to a new enemy. Soundtrack-wise, the game has some highs with the music, but for the most part, the music is forgettable. There is a lot of classical music that I'm pretty sure is royalty-free, and most of the music is electronic and dubsteppy, which are genres of music I'm not a terrible fan of, especially the dubstep ones. Some of the combat music is pretty cool though. My favorite one is the one in the first boss fight encounter. That shit goes so fucking hard. I've heard that some of these tracks were done by the legendary Mick Gordon, and I'm pretty sure this was one of the tracks he did because it fucking rocks, and almost sounds straight from Doom. I wish the entire game's soundtrack was like this, but sadly it isn't. This is really hard to say without sounding like a huge veiny dick, but I was hoping for a lot more from the game, which is kind of the theme of this entire review if I'm being honest with you. I'll talk about that a bit more with the gameplay. BioShock's influence on this game is seen a lot more in the gameplay. You play as a dude that holds 6 different weapons at once and can shoot shit out of their hand, mainly just electricity, ice, and polymer goop stuff. I'm getting ahead of myself though. There are a variety of weapons in this game. You can get some sick looking melee weapons, along with a pistol, shotgun, assault rifle, rocket launcher, an energy pistol, and an energy assault rifle, I guess is what I'd call it. In order to obtain said weapons, you have to find the blueprints for them, except for the shotgun and the pistol, and craft them. Yes, there's a crafting system in this, which I don't ever think is a good thing in a video game, especially one like this, because it always feels very unnecessary, unless it's part of a survival game or something. Mundfish expects players to scour the map and loot every single piece of openable furniture for little items to craft upgrades for weapons, the weapons themselves, ammo, and other miscellaneous items like healing pods. If you're one of the freaks that enjoys looting every little thing in video games, then you'll fucking love this, but personally, this shit isn't for me, because most of the game you'll spend your time just not very exciting, is it? I'm here to fight robots, not look for shit in drawers. If I wanted to look for shit in drawers, I just look through the ones here at home. You could argue that I could just not do it, but you need to do it to strengthen your weapons and have an easier time in combat. Speaking of the combat, it can get pretty crazy and frenetic, and when it does, it's really fun. Like BioShock before it, the game shines when you're in a hectic battle situation, and you're constantly switching weapons and using your different abilities to survive said hectic situations. I had a ton of fun with these crazy battle situations, but they don't get fun until further into the game. In the beginning, all you get is an axe and the shock ability, so all you're doing in the beginning is stunning enemies for a very short period of time and whacking them, then desperately dashing away from them, hoping you might not get hurt since you can't really read their attacks when you're so up close to them, and this gets really frustrating extremely fast. Melee combat in first-person games isn't fun. I've never enjoyed it. Having to get so up close to enemies in these types of games lends itself to you taking a ton of damage, because you can't read the enemy attacks when you're so up close to them. And the whole point of an FPS is to shoot people from a distance, so FPS games are mostly designed with that in mind, especially this one. The combat does get progressively better as you get more weapons, but even then, the game expects you to conserve as much ammo as possible through stealth, because you don't get as much ammo in the beginning. And stealth isn't the game's strong suit. Stealth in a lot of games also feels very tacked on, and in this game it does especially. It's not fun hiding from cameras and robots, especially when the game doesn't give you a lot of places to hide or options to make stealth more fun. Since Atomic Heart was designed more for frenetic battles and constant weapon switching, the beginning feels like it drags on forever because you're constantly dying due to robots catching you while you're sneaking around and being ill-equipped to do any damage to these things. Once you get the electric pistol and its special attack where you charge it and shoot a burst of electricity to stun robots, I feel is the exact point when the combat starts being fun, because you're now given a useful option in battle besides wasting ammo and hacking at them Elder Scrolls style. That ability is my favorite to use, along with stunning enemies by freezing them and stopping a group of them by making them levitate. But towards the end of the game, I ended up using the polymer group that enhances elemental attacks since it works on bosses. Using energy weapons is a great way to conserve ammo because it doesn't have any. When fighting with these weapons, you use up the energy bar at the bottom right corner of the screen that can be recharged by either waiting for it to fill up really fucking slowly, or by using your melee weapon. So the best way to conserve ammo is by using your energy weapons on enemies, and then using your melee weapon on them to get that energy bar back as fast as possible, and then using it more. However, in bigger combat situations, especially the ones with the mini bosses, doing that isn't possible, so you have all the other weapons and abilities to help you in those battles. While playing though, I found the main boss fights to be the best parts of the game, especially the first one. But even then, it takes a fucking while to get to it. According to my gameplay recordings, you don't fight an actual boss until 7 hours into the fucking game.
7 hours.
And according to Game Pass, that's about halfway through the fucking game. The game even fucking baits you into thinking there's gonna be a boss fight with a giant mutant plant thing, but a cutscene plays instead. It absolutely infuriates me that you have to get further into the game to start having fun with it. Along with the fact you spend most of your time finding shitty loot to craft shitty items, makes for a game that I would have given up on way sooner if it wasn't for the fact I was going to review it on this channel. And don't even get me started on the insufferable dialogue and world building, but I'll get to those in a bit. First, I want to talk about how the game is open world-ish. Once you leave the first main area, the game kind of opens up and lets you go around exploring for items and other challenges. But I don't enjoy open worlds very much, because I don't like most of my time in a game being spent looking for shit, unless it's part of the main quest line, or just walking around for an absurdly long amount of time to get to where I need to go. However, the open world, if you could even call it that, is pretty small compared to other games, so I don't mind it too terribly much. Except the game expects you to stealth around everything here too, because you don't have enough ammo to fight every single robot on your way to the next major area, and there are robots and cameras to alert even more robots everywhere. Even though the open world is built like this, you can get away with just running away or getting in a car and driving around it all. But the car driving is really shitty in this game, so you'll spend like 10 seconds in the car before crashing it and having to leave it because it's gonna explode. Meaning, if you're anything like me, you're gonna spend most of your time running away from the robots out in the world because there's no real reason to fight them, unless you need the parts, which you're perfectly fine without, to be honest. You even have an alert level to let you know how many enemies are going to be after you, but I'm always on the highest alert level, which is 2, and as long as I kept walking and dodging, I never felt like I was in any danger. The game also expects you to go out of your way to go do some testing grounds bullshit to get more blueprints for your upgrades, for your weapons. But I never did those because I never felt like I needed those upgrades, so I don't know how good they are. I was perfectly fine without them, and I was playing on the highest difficulty for most of the game. I say mostly since in the beginning I switched it to normal because I was getting really frustrated with the game because of the aforementioned lack of weapons and abilities. Once I started having fun with the game, I switched it to the hard mode because I enjoy challenges in my games, and modern games on normal difficulty are far too easy for me a lot of the time. Yep, that's right. I'm a real fucking experienced gamer, guys, so I know what I'm talking about. No shame to those that play on easy though. You guys keep doing you. Fucking pussies. In my humble little opinion, the game is easy enough without having to go out of your way for these upgrades. Most of the upgrade and weapon schematics you'll ever need are in the major areas of the game, so as long as you go out of your way to explore these areas a little bit, you'll be fine. I originally didn't know this game had open world elements, and when I did find out, I was frustrated because, like I said before, I don't enjoy open world games, and combined with the frustration of the beginning portion of the game, made for a disappointing experience to say the least. I'm sure this stuff was in all the gameplay trailers and showcases, but I'm not the kind of person that looks into all that because I want to be surprised by the cool moments in games, if they have any, and all those showcases spoil a lot of what makes a game experience special in my opinion. Besides, I feel like I know video games well enough that I can tell if I'm gonna like one based on the first major trailer, and with Atomic Heart, I was hopeful, but I had a feeling I was gonna be hugely disappointed with it, and so far, I was right. There's a reason all the trailers only show the crazy-ass combat and boss battles, because those are the best parts of the game. It's hard to make this looting and open world shit exciting in a trailer. This at least would have been a little bit more honest. Now onto my biggest gripe with the game, the story, writing, and the way the lore is presented to you. I must preface this section with the fact that I don't enjoy most world building in video games, especially when it's so in your face about it. I could care less about all the fucking lore in your game, so I'm not gonna go waste my time looking for it, or listening to it, especially when I'm not advancing the game by finding it. I'm fine with stories in games, it's just that everyone believes you have to have a shit ton of lore to back up a story like they're trying to be the next Lord of the Rings. If you've seen my Dead Space video, you also know I don't like chatty protagonists, because most of the time they say the most useless and unnecessary shit in the world. I've never played a game and thought the game benefited from having a protagonist or anyone constantly talking at you during gameplay. It's almost always insufferable. Talking during cutscenes is fine, obviously, but for the love of God, not during the gameplay. Some games that I don't enjoy as much because of this are shit like the Borderlands series, the new God of War games, and Resident Evil 6, even though it's not a very good game in general. But that's just to name a few. Even if the dialogue is good, I'd rather them just not say anything. Even stupid ass audio log shit pisses me off sometimes. And this game has those aplenty, and I didn't listen to any of them because I didn't need to and didn't care enough about it. Alright, now that I got that out of the way, let me explain the story a bit before I really start tearing into the main reason I don't like this game. Like I said at the beginning, you play as a Russian operative, Sergey, and his talking glove, Charles, that is tasked with stopping this robot uprising that terrorist Viktor Petrov has started. As the game continues, you, unsurprisingly, find out that the person you're working for, Dmitry Sechenov, might not be as epic and wholesome as you thought, and that the terrorist might be kinda in the right here, but you do shit for Sechenov anyway, all the way up to the climax of the game. As you complete tasks for him, you start noticing that he doesn't really give a shit about all the people that are dying. He only wants to stop the robots from being in their combat mode, which they weren't supposed to have in the first place, so he can unveil his special project to the world. Sechenov's special project is Collective 2.0, which is supposedly going to allow the people to control the seemingly harmless robots with their minds, instead of giving them verbal commands. Despite all the clues pointing to Sechenov being a fucking asshole, your main character is a fucking dumbass with amnesia that believes Russia can do no wrong. So the fucking glove is the one telling him why all this shit is suspicious, while you're sitting there in front of the computer screen in absolute disbelief at the fact that an adult male can be this fucking naive. Granted, he doesn't have any memories before the past 2 years, but like, holy shit, this dude doesn't know anything about anything. He's a literal child. He'll even ask the glove for information sometimes, and then they'll end up having a whole ass conversation on why communism might not be super epic while I'm trying to solve this puzzle. Like, I'm not fucking aware of this already. Our protagonist actually cannot fathom the fact that his boss could do anything wrong. He puts a lot of trust in Sechenov because he supposedly saved Sergey's life, even though he can't remember what from or what even happened to him before he started working for Sechenov. And for some reason, he doesn't find anything suspicious about that at all, which is one reason I hate this fucking protagonist. Not only is he fucking stupid, he won't shut the fuck up. Sergey has absolutely nothing of any value to say. He's either spouting A, something I already knew,
Holy shit, avoid the beam!
B, some super corny shit,
Get in line, you sons of bitches. Calm to Papa. I'm just getting started. I don't give two wet farts.
or C, his fucking shitty ass catchphrase.
Crispy critters. Crispy critters. Crispy ass critters.
Who wrote him like this? Why? Crispy critters? What kind of fucking catchphrase is that? Who fucking says that? How does anyone take this man seriously when he says that shit? He's absolutely insufferable. Every time I would hear him say his catchphrase, I looked at the loaded gun on my table and thought about how its contents would look nice inside of my brain. This is the reason protagonists should be silent, because corny ass people exist that try to write a very serious political story about communism and how you shouldn't trust your government that's filled with catchphrases and shitty quips about how games and the repetitive puzzles make no fucking sense. Speaking of, there are points in the game where he explicitly states how bad and shitty a certain part of the game is, because of how repetitive the puzzles are, or how opening a door is so needlessly complicated, trying to take a jab at how weird and useless games are designed sometimes.
Who the hell came up with all this shit? I'm sick to death of shoving balls into tubes.
We're doing this so we can leave the Vavilov complex.
Why can't I just, I don't know, walk out a regular door?
Then why did you design it this way?
This is where the power comes from.
Are you sure?
Definitely.
How?
Because this place has my favorite thing in the whole fucking world. A relay.
Really? I thought you were more partial to canisters.
Oh, come on.
Then why is it here?
Why can't this lousy goddamn cable car go any faster?
No one foresaw this particular turn of events.
Then why isn't it going any faster, Mundfish, if you know how bullshit this is? The developers had absolutely zero room to write this shit into their game. Atomic Heart is full of all the things it's criticizing.
But Pubert, it's making fun of itself. It's so self-aware. Funny self-aware humor is epic.
No! No, it's not! Imagine I kill the person you love the most and say,
Lol, oopsie, I know killing people's bad.
and then skip my way to the nearest crowded mall with the loaded AR-15. Yeah, right? That's exactly how the writing for this game feels. And don't even get me started on the part where he's trying to travel by the train and has to find the fucking ticket for it. You waste your time finding 2 tickets for this robot because he won't take you where you need to go unless you have a valid ticket, right? And neither of the ones you spent like 15 minutes talking to the corpses to find are fucking valid. And then the robot goes,
Please do not worry. Having analyzed the situation, I came to the conclusion that you are a law enforcement officer investigating an emergency. It is obvious that you are allowed to travel free of charge under the current circumstances.
Are you serious?
Feel free to take any available seat. The train is departing in 10 seconds.
Wow, we just witnessed a real miracle of science.
The train is now.
you are so fucking funny, game! To some of you, this might not be a big deal, but this game just wasted your time for an unfunny joke a 12-year-old could have written. I absolutely hate getting my time wasted in video games. It would have been fine if what I was doing was actually fun, but I just walked around looking for these corpses, and that's it. Nothing else. That's 15 minutes I could have spent jerking off to my favorite porn. Oh, the corpses talk sometimes, by the way. That's cool actually, but I never cared about anything they had to say, so I just walked right past them. I really don't understand why they wrote the game and the protagonist like this, especially when it kind of has a decent story and kinda neat ending.
Holy shit, spoilers!
This is the spoiler section of the video, so for the love of God, skip to this time code if you don't want to be spoiled. You've been warned. So basically, the big reveal is that surprise surprise, the guy you're working for is a shitty person, and when Collective 2.0 launches, he was gonna send the robots to the US as a peace offering, and as aid, only to trigger their combat mode once they're completely integrated into US culture, and destroy the country from the inside out. Not only that, when Collective launches, he'll be able to control every human with a neuroconnector attached to their head, which will be everyone, and have them do his bidding after sending their minds to a limbo place, including Sergey. Sergey can be sent to said limbo, and he's completely obedient to certain people, and can be sent into a murderous rampage, which is how some of these important figures were killed and how he got out of certain situations. Not only that, but he was a soldier with a soldier wife, and they came back from a mission almost beyond recovery. Sergey was saved and made into Sechenov's puppet, who had the events of his past erased from his mind, because he was incredibly distraught over them. His wife ended up dying, however, and her brain split in half and put into the 2 ballerina twins, left and right. Not only that, you find out your glove used to be Sheraton Zaharov, an important scientist. His consciousness was put into some polymer goop and stuck into your glove. All of that is actually kinda cool, even though I kind of saw the glove thing coming. I just wish these ideas were put in a different game, or that it was shown in a better way. Modern games just really enjoy having their big reveal parts be some lame-ass walking simulator. As you can tell, I'm not a big fan of this, especially since you can't skip it if you decide to play the game again and already know everything. BioShock Infinite has this, and like every other FPS game has this. It's a really annoying trend in games that I feel no one talks about. Your reward for getting this far into a game shouldn't be to do nothing and listen to some woman talk your ear off for a long ass time and watching almost naked people do goofy ass shit. It should be cooler gameplay moments. Even the first hour of the game's like this. You just walk around and do nothing but look around and talk to people just for the sake of world building. I just wanted to fight robots and for the game to actually start the entire time I was going through these parts. Is it really so unreasonable to ask for more game in my video games? I'm sure there are much better ways to reveal your twists and build your world in a video game, like through fucking skippable cutscenes. Also, the rest of the boss fights aren't really as cool as the first one, except for the Natasha one and the final one. mainly because those boss fights have a different way of defeating them, and that isn't just shoot them until they die. In the first one, you press buttons to summon these pillar things and have the boss crash into said pillars, and then this lets you cause massive damage to its weak points because it's stunned. The Natasha boss fight shoots these mines that you can trigger and get hurt by, or you can pick them up and shoot them at her, causing massive damage. The rest of the boss fights don't have any creative ways to defeat them using your environment, but the final boss against the ballerina twins is really cool too. I like the boss fight because it's very flashy and stuff. I just wish the characters wouldn't talk during the entire fight, because every time you die, you have to hear the same dialogue over and over again.
Just walk into my office with a loaded gun. Once I launch Collective 2.0. Stop messing with my head!
This is also another reason characters should stay silent during gameplay. I don't need to hear them say these things again. I just heard them say it because I suck ass at this game. After the fight, there's another twist though. Charles ends up betraying you, and it turns out that he was the one sending Sergei into these blind rage moments where his mind is in limbo and not Sechenov. Before this is revealed, Sergei shoots Sechenov, and then Charles immobilizes Sergei and becomes this polymer humanoid thing, and plans on destroying the human race and turn them into sentient beings of polymer, stating it will be the next step of human evolution. And then the game just ends after Sergei goes into limbo and sees his robot wife. I figured the glove would end up betraying you in some form or fashion, but I didn't expect it to be this way. I do like the hopeless ending though, mostly because not a lot of media is brave enough to write endings like this, especially since it kind of renders all the protagonists and your efforts completely fruitless, making that shitty ticket gag even more fucking useless. I respect it for being bold enough to have an ending like this. Not everyone's story has a happy ending. Life can be really chaotic, depressing, and cruel, and I enjoy stories that put us on our place and remind us of that fact. I don't know why, I just do, alright? There is a season pass for this game, however, so they'll more than likely make a story DLC wrapping up the story in a neat little bow, which is honestly pretty lame, but I'm not gonna play it, so who fucking cares? Atomic Heart isn't necessarily a bad game. I might not like it, but I can see why other people might like it. It's kind of a lamer Russian Bioshock, and if all you want is more Bioshock-like games in your life, then I'm sure you'll enjoy this game. It's a perfectly playable experience. I didn't encounter any glitches when playing, except for this one. Me personally, the insufferable beginning that's just a walking simulator, the insufferable first half where you don't have enough weapons to make the game fun, and the insufferable writing and main protagonist are what completely ruined this gaming experience. It has its cool moments, and the highs of the game are fun, but there just aren't enough highs, and the low points are awful and aplenty. $70 is too high a price for this game, and you're better off spending your money on one of the cool indie games I've reviewed. Why don't you check them out if you enjoyed this video? Anyway, please subscribe to get notified when my next video comes out, and make sure not to die before it comes out. Adios.